Hey, what's up? It's your soccer zombie, Tom Franklin here. I just got home from Energizer Park. It is just past 11 o'clock Saturday night. So happy to be back at Energizer Park to see so many familiar faces, meet some new ones. And Energizer Park is my happy place. It is a happy place today. It'll be there tomorrow for all time. I love that place, and I love that we are back. And I'm not even upset about the draw. I think partly because it's vibes, partly because I think there was some encouraging things we saw tonight in Olaf Melberg's system. But here's what I'm going to do right now. I'm not going to go through the player rankings for you right now. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to replay the game. I'm going to take some notes. And I'm going to come back and do some player rankings. And you just have to stand right here and watch the intro. And on the flip side of it, I'll be a little more cogent. All right. Intro time. Well, needless to say, I was pretty tired after Saturday, so I needed a quick pick-me-up Sunday morning, and I got that at Pat Connolly Tavern, located at the corner of Tam and Oakland in beautiful Dogtown, where they've been serving Sunday brunch since 1942. And like Leuven's free kick that hit the post Saturday, it really hit the spot. Still feeling pretty vibey despite the 0-0 draw from this past Saturday, and my feelings really haven't changed much from last night, although I do feel a little bit better and a little bit more rested after a long but great day yesterday hanging out with fans. We got our first look at Olaf Melberg's new system here, and I think that's going to tell a lot of the story here when it comes to these player rankings that we are about to do. I think these rankings were going to be affected by just how defensive our structure was, and maybe to the detriment of some offensive-minded players, including one in particular. But I have a feeling that I'm actually going to be pretty positive overall, maybe too positive here. So if you want to leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about how everyone performed last night for St. Louis City SC, I think there's there's kind of divided opinions online about how St. Louis did last night, whether it was the draw stings. We had so many draws last year. It was disappointing. And some were encouraged by what they saw. And I kind of fall into that latter category here. So let's go to the tier maker and let's rate us some players. And we'll talk about the game as I'm ranking these players. And of course, if you want to give me your opinion on where these players should be ranked before I record these after every home match, you can go to the Soccer Zombie Discord and go into the player rankings category and let me know what you think. There were a few of you that made some opinions last night about how these players performed. So I will definitely take those into account. We'll discuss them as we go along here. One comment in the Discord was that Roman Berkey didn't really have a whole lot to do last night, and it was partly just because of the defensive structure, not really giving him too much to work with. Colorado didn't have a lot of quality chances. They did have one towards the end of the game that squirted just by. I mean, it was nothing that Berkey could do about that one if it had gone in or not. The Mihalovic shot from outside the box. But otherwise, he didn't have much to do. And so, if players I feel do their job, and were otherwise unexceptional, I'll put them in the good category. But Berkey, he was just, I mean, he was there. I'm just gonna put him in meh. And there's nothing, and meh's not bad. Meh is not a bad score. It is just, he was there. He did his job. Period. End of story. And that's kind of what Berkey did. So yeah, I have nothing really, really to say about how Roman Berkey performed last night. He was there. He was fine. Next one I'm going to talk about is Giannis Horn. And when I made some notes after the game last night, and then I rewatched the game today as I'm recording this. Today is Sunday as I'm recording this. So my first hunch on Giannis Horn was that he didn't jump out to me as much as Thomas Totland did, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. I was kind of surprised to see Horn playing out as a wing back instead of Conrad Wallum, who we did see later on in the game. And I'll talk a little bit about just some of the personnel that Olaf has to work with and how he's going to deploy them, because it seemed very apparent to me that Olaf wanted Totland to be the engine, and they worked the ball a lot on the right side, not as much on the left. Horn was more of a steady presence, backfilling a little bit on defense, a little bit more than Totland was. So that kind of affected my perception at the time of how Giannis Horn did. But then I rewatched the game, and Giannis Horn, I thought he was fine. He was helping out Kyle Hebert in shutting down Kevin Cabral. They tried to work it early on to Cabral a lot, and he just wasn't having much luck because we were very defensively responsible this game, and Horn was a part of that. So I was fine with how Horn did. Again, nothing too exceptional, which as a defender, I think defenders kind of lend themselves a little bit to criticism more than attackers, just because if they're not doing their job, it's very obvious. But Horn, I thought, did his job. I thought he had a good game. I'll give him a good for that. I was encouraged by him. I'm just kind of curious how much they're going to play him out on the wing back a bit, but we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to Conrad Wallum here. Next person I'm going to talk about is Kyle Hebert. Kyle Hebert, I was otherwise, and I was thinking about this as the game was going on. I was thinking that Kyle Hebert was just going to get meh or good, perhaps. I mean, he did his job. I thought he had a quiet game for the most part. There was nothing that really jumped out to me in person. On the rewatch, though, I thought that he did okay. I thought he was positioned well. He was helping shut down Cabral. He was getting in there for headers, getting some clearances out of the way. I thought on the rewatch that Hebert had a good game until the very end when he had those two very bad passes that Kessler had to help clean up here, and that was kind of a theme of this game. Kessler on cleanup duty, and we'll get to Kessler in a bit. He'll be next, actually. But Hebert, those bad passes kind of, dragged down his score for me just a little bit. But I don't think it dragged him down enough to be meh, because he's part of the overall story of this new defensively responsible system that Olaf is rolling out. And he was part of that. And so I'm still going to give him good, but it's like a B minus. It basically, like, he barely makes it on to good. I think you can excuse those bad passes at the end a little bit because I think that Hebert was tired because he was doing a lot of running. He had a lot of ground to cover. He was basically covering sideline to center of the field. So I'll give him a bit of a pass on those bad passes, but he almost fell into meh. If one of those giveaways had resulted in an actual goal from Colorado, then Hebert goes down to meh easily. But I mean, overall, the overall scope of the game, I thought Hebert was fine. I thought he was fine. Next one up here is Henry Kessler. This guy balled out on Saturday. He was playing the central defender. He was covering sideline to sideline. That was very apparent from seeing that in person. But then I saw the heat map of where he was in the post game, and yeah, he was here, there, and everywhere on the back end. He absolutely put on his working boots on this one, and he was always in the right place. He had some really good backtracks. There was a really good tackle in the 10th minute on Cabral, who looked like he was going to get around our defense. He may have had a 2-on-1 potential there, and Kessler busted his ass to get back there, stepped in, made a really nice tackle. And about the same time that Cabral was kind of stopping to try to, cross it over to the left side. But Kessler was really, really solid. I think he absolutely smashed it. Candidate for man of the match. We'll talk about man of the match later on, but Kessler 100% smashed it. Next one up is Josh Yaro. Look, Josh Yaro is what he is. He is a no-nonsense defender who is not a progressive passer. He's not great on the ball. I was watching the game with my stepbrother. He was standing to the left of me in the supporters end, and my stepbrother's not very vocal during the game in general. He's he's quiet. He analyzes. He's a former player, so he's a lot more knowledgeable about tactics than I am. But every time Yarrow had the ball, like I heard him like groan or complain and just get really nervous when Yarrow had the ball. And quite frankly, I saw his point because Yarrow does make me a little bit nervous with the ball. I think that Colorado knew that because it seemed like every time Yarrow had the ball on his feet, Colorado would start pressing forwards a little bit to try to dispossess the ball from him. But to be fair, Yarrow, I don't think put in a bad pass this game from what I saw. I mean, he looked like he got more pressure, but then he was able to do okay with it. Like I still don't want him starting on a regular basis. I hope that this was because maybe Olaf didn't think that Timo Baumgartel was ready. I know Nilsson's got a knock. He didn't play because of that. But I thought for what he did and what he was asked to do, I thought Josh Yarrow had a good game. And I'm going to put him in the good category next to Horn and Hebert because, again, I think the defense was kind of a sum of its whole parts, and Yarrow was part of that. Who else was a part of that? Was Tomas Totland. And I'm going to say his name correctly this year. Tomas Totland. That's what the announcer said. That's what Dan, the PA guy, says. I called him Totland last year. I thought it was because of that's a lot of Norwegians. They pronounce the O, like the actual O. But no, apparently it is Tomas Totland. If I slip up, let me know. But Totland, this guy was doing the Lord's work in the first half. He clearly likes having the freedom to play further upfield, which you kind of suspected last year at times, that Totland is not your stay-at-home type of a wing back. Like I think Giannis Horn is more comfortable playing further back, and Totland is clearly more comfortable playing forward, and he looked like he was having fun last night. I mean, he was in his element. He was, making bombing runs up the right, and it was very clear that they were trying to work the ball along that right wing a lot in that first half, because of just how well Tottenham was playing, and clearly Olaf sees that he is capable of making those penetrating runs along the right. His service in the box was okay. I thought that was partly due to the fact that we just didn't get in very good positions for him to pay off those runs. And that's more of a tactical thing, which we'll get into when we get to Olaf's section here. But Totland, again, I thought he was great. He actually, besides creating chances, he actually had some chances himself. In the second half, he had a shot blocked, and then he skied one over the net. Totland strikes me as someone that is very serious about his craft and sometimes maybe a little too serious at times. And so he could do with a bit more touch when he's like trying to, take a shot on net. But again, I thought Totland was great. I think he's a candidate for man of the match just because he was in his element. They used him properly. And I thought he was a threat the whole game. I was very impressed with Tomas Totland. He also had a spring in his step too, which is good because he definitely wore himself out last year. But I think this year with Rasmus Alm going to be able to play right wing back, assuming he's not hurt for long, which is a common thing with him. Also, Joey Zielinski getting the first team contract. I think that is done with the mindset of having Totland not play so much as he did last year. And we'll get to kind of usage and how Olaf's going to structure his lineups a little bit later on. But Totland, I think he absolutely smashed it. Next player on our list here, Akil Watts. So Akil Watts, I think, is one of those players that sees opportunity to impress because he's got a new coach. He's got a new coach that clearly values hardworking types, like Kyle Hebert. Getting the start was an example of that. Hebert's always a hard worker. He has his limitations, but someone that can impress a coach just because he works hard. Jake Nerwinski was an example of that last year when John Hackworth took over. And Akil Watts, I thought he busted his ass Saturday night. Was he particularly effective at creating chances? I don't think so. But again, he's got his limitations, but he worked very hard. He was truly box to box, and that's something that Olaf said that he wants out of his central midfielders, is that he wants all of his central midfielders to be box to box types, and I think Akil Watts got the message on that. I thought he had a good game. I'm going to put him in good. He played like someone that is seeing an opportunity for more playing time, seeing an opportunity to impress a new coach, and he took advantage of it. So I really thought Akil Watts played a very respectable game last night, and we'll see when Chris Durkin comes back, how that's what's going to work, because that was one thing that we were talking about in the preseason, is that our central midfield depth is a little thin. And Ostrak's still getting up to speed. We didn't see him last night. We did see a cameo from Morales. We'll talk about him a little later on, but I think Morales, he's not a traditional six. I think he's more of a Leuven replacement, because he plays as a deep lying playmaker. We'll talk about Morales later, though. But again, I thought Akil Watts was good. Speaking of Leuven, it looked like that Leuven also was a beneficiary of the new system. Leuven was playing a little further back than he's accustomed to, which I think that's where he's comfortable with. I think he playing him up, as we've seen over the past couple of years, he's not the most effective at. I think Leuven is a standard 8, the guy that plays in the middle of the field, acts as a link up between the defense and the attackers. Now, granted, I believe that Olaf tried to play wide, so maybe we didn't see so much link up play from Leuven that we might see if we were playing him a little bit more centrally, but I thought Leuven looked very effective last night in his role, creating, trying to create chances. He had a nice free kick, the one where Betcher was trying to mess with Zach Steffen and then ended up getting called back. I mean, he was inches away from getting a goal on that free kick. It hit off the post. It was a beautiful free kick from him. Very interesting to see how the split works between him and Hartl on those free kicks, because I've seen Leuven give way to Hartl a lot, like on corners and free kicks, but then we saw Leuven getting the chance at goal in that first half that got called back. So all in all, I thought Leuven had a good game. I thought he had a very good game, and I think he's going to like playing a little further back in this structure, because he's going to have Marcel Hartl in front of him to, really, be that, penetrating link. That's clearly how they want to have them operate. And I think Leuven having a little bit less responsibility further up in the final third will benefit him. So I was very, very encouraged by what I saw from Leuven. Marcel Hartl, interesting, because I didn't think in person he was too impressive, which I know sounds like blasphemy probably on hindsight to those of you that watched on TV. But I didn't hate his performance either. He created the most chances out of any St. Louis player. He created 7 chances. But he was also having a lot of the same issues that Tottenham was having in linking up in the box, which is as much, it's not so much on Hartl and Totland, I believe, on the rewatch, as it was because Colorado was playing really good defense. Keep in mind, this is a very good Colorado Rapids team that I think is going to be competing for hardware this year, whether it's in the CONCACAF or whether it's with the MLS Cup. And so you got to respect that from Colorado. But Hartl worked hard. I saw him chip in on defense a few times, but he was also playing a little more further up, I felt, than he was last year when he was kind of being asked to, play a little deeper at times. I think offense for this club is going to be a work in progress just in general, and Hartl's kind of part of that. He was playing centrally. Remember last year he was playing on the left wing, but now he's playing centrally behind Betcher and Klaus. So I was encouraged by what I saw from Hartl. I can't really say it was a meh performance, because I thought he was effective in his role. It was just that Colorado was kind of shutting him down. But I don't like giving bad marks to players who just get run up against a good defense. It was not for a lack of effort. I'll give Hartl good, maybe a lower good like Hebert was, just because it was still a 0-0 draw. But Let me know in the comments below if I'm being too kind on that, or maybe I'm not being kind enough. I'm really curious what you think about how I rate these players, because I feel like I'm being very generous. Maybe it's just because of the first game. Maybe it's just because I'm grading on a curve a little bit because of the new system that Olaf has. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Next player, I'm gonna avoid the elephant in the room. I'm going to talk about Simon Betcher. Simon Betcher, I'm just gonna put him right up in Smash right now. Um, and not because I'm biased, because I'm a Slew guy, and I've been a fan of his since he was a Billiken. But Simon Betcher is going to be a fan favorite. I think he already is. I mean, I got him on the back of my Confluence kit for a reason, but uh, Simon Betcher clowning Zach Steffen on that free kick. Um, he was hilarious. It was right in front of the north end, and he was absolutely hilarious. But I think that's indicative of the type of player that he is. And we saw other examples of that where he is not afraid to get his nose dirty. He's not afraid to stir the dirt up. We haven't really had that type of, super shithouser, for lack of a better term, since Jared Stroud. I mean, Celio can do it, but Celio's more elegant. Whereas Betcher is definitely your meat and potatoes, end of the attack type of a forward. But he also, to be fair, he does a lot of things off the ball that um, I liked. I liked out of him on Saturday. Now, does Betcher have limits? Of course. I mean, like every player on this board is going to have limits of some sort. But we did see that he can be very effective as that end of the attack finisher. He should have had a goal in the first half. He should have 2 goals in the first half because Zach Steffen absolutely stonewalled him in the 17th minute. It was a Thomas Totland having a long throw, and it went off a Colorado head. Betcher, Johnny on the spot right there, bang, and Zach Steffen just was in the right position, and he made a brilliant save on that. To be fair, Fatmob actually made Steffen the man of the match because I think of that save, honestly, and honestly, it was a good game from Steffen. To be fair, and then Betcher. On the goal that was called back. I mean, he was in the right place. He was where he needed to be. That whole sequence was just Betcher, Betcher being Betcher. But Betcher, I thought he was the most effective attacker that we had, just in terms of creating good shots. Like, he was the only one that was getting good shots for St. Louis. We'll talk about the other guy who was a little deficient on that. But Simon Betcher, I thought he had a great game. I thought he was a candidate for man of the match as well. Let me know in the comments below if you think that Betcher should be man of the match. If you think it should be Totland, it should be Kessler. I think all three have a very solid argument for being man of the match, but we'll get to man of the match here at the end here. Okay, I've voted it long enough. I'm going to talk about a guy that I think is very divisive in the St. Louis City fan base, and someone that I think is going to be very hard to grade week in and week out, just because he's really an eye of the beholder type, and that is Joao Klaus. I did not think that Klaus was impressive live. It didn't. It felt like he was a little disconnected from the attack, which may have been by design on the rewatch because again, we were focusing play on the right more often than not, and Klaus was playing to the left of Betcher. So all the service was going into Betcher, all to Betcher. Klaus didn't really get a lot of service, and he didn't have very quality chances, I thought. I'm really kind of questioning, and I questioned this in the Discord as well last night, whether or not we really need a quote unquote facilitator as a striker in this formation when clearly we are trying to play out wide this year. Now that we have quality wide players in and Wallum. We still have Celio that can play out wide. We still have Rasmus Alm that can play out wide. I really think that with the structure of this formation, we're going to want to play more wide. So what's the point of Klaus in this formation? And I may be being too critical. I understand. I understand that he's just a very divisive type of a player, but Yeah, I just was not very impressed by Joao Klaus last night. It wasn't for a lack of effort. Like, if someone is, being truly lazy, like, he goes right into the trash. No, it just wasn't a lack of effort from Klaus. I think Klaus, again, I've talked about him on River City Ramble, and we'll talk about this game on River City Ramble this week. We're going to record on Monday night, and I'm not going to put Klaus. I'm going to put Klaus as a meh, because the game wasn't really tailored for him. The offensive attack wasn't tailored for him. I think I question whether he's just as kind of a square peg in a round hole. If this is the look we're gonna have, what purpose does Klaus serve? If the service isn't going into him, if it's all going through Betcher, what is Klaus doing out there? Because he had the least touches out of any outfield player that started in the starting 11 for City. I mean, Berkey doesn't count, but yeah, Klaus only had something like 30 touches the whole game, which tells me he was just very disconnected from the game plan. And maybe I could watch the game again and like zero in on Klaus and look at some of the off the ball stuff that he was doing, which is what I think redeems him in a lot of ways, especially among the analytics community. But just to me, I don't think Klaus had a particularly effective game last night. He just wasn't effective. Um, I know I kind of gave Watts a bit of a pass because I thought that his service wasn't the greatest, but Watts is not a DP. And I'm sorry, but I am going to weight that a little bit. I think with great salary comes great expectation, with great responsibility. Like the Spider-Man quote. And I don't know. I just was not very impressed by Klaus. Maybe I'm being too critical. I have a feeling this is someone that's going to be a challenge all season to truly judge. But that's just my opinion. That is just my opinion. First sub of the game was Alfredo Morales in the second half, came on for Edouard Leuven. Olaf said afterwards that Leuven was just a little bit wore out. And I think we got a good display of how Morales will be used, because if you're talking about a like-for-like replacement, I think Morales is going to be that guy. I thought Alfredo Morales, he looked like he did in Coachella in the games that I was able to see him. He's slick. He is a very slick veteran player who loves a long cross. He is a very pretty passer. Passer of the ball. And we saw some good service from him last night in his limited opportunity. Time will tell across the season if he can hold up. He's been a little bit injury prone, and he's 34, so you're not going to want to ride him too hard if Leuven goes down. But I think as a supplement, as a late game supplement to Leuven, or maybe Ostrak whenever he gets fully up to speed, I was very impressed by what I saw from him. And it's very limited in scope. It's a small sample size, but I'll put him in good because I like what I saw from him. I really like what I saw from him, and you see what Lutz liked out of him. And if you watch the New York City FC game, for instance, he's just a very appealing player. So yeah, Morales, I thought he had a good game. Conrad Wallum. So Conrad Wallum came on in the 80th minute along with Cedric Teuchert. And Wallum, I was kind of surprised at first that he didn't get the start on the left, and maybe Horn would shift to that left center back role. But I saw how we were using Tomas Totland and how we were funneling everything through Totland. And it got me thinking, Olaf has a lot of options for the looks and the personnel that he can throw out there at a given moment. He's going to have to rotate his players a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Wallum and Totland out on the field together a whole lot this year. And it sounds crazy, but both Wallum and Totland are penetrators. They are guys that can make bombing runs up the wings. And I think maybe on the field, Olaf might see them as a bit redundant to each other. He also, Olaf may have seen that, the right side of our attack was going to be the more effective to exploit for Colorado than the left, perhaps. But yeah, Conrad Wallum, I'm curious how he's going to be utilized the rest of the season, because I think Totland's going to need breathers. He's going to need to be in and out a little bit. We'll see Zielinski and Alm on the right side a little bit. But when one of them is on, Rasmus Alm is not someone I would consider like, a super fast, speedy type like Totland is. He's more of a cultured crosser of the ball. And Zielinski, I haven't seen enough of him to really form an opinion on. But I can see Walm starting on the left, Totland sitting for, Alm and Zielinski. And Walm is the guy that you funnel the attacks through because he's clearly got the goods for that. But last night, as far as what he did on the field, he didn't really have much, nothing really stood out to me, except he did make a really good backtrack to correct Hebert's first back pass towards the end there. He hustled, he worked his butt off, but I'm just going to put him in meh because again, he was only on for 10 minutes and it's really kind of hard to judge, that small of a sample size. Like Morales had a good almost 30 minutes to work with. Walm just had, 14, I believe, just like the next guy here, Cedric Toyshirt, who nothing really jumped out to me. And when I did the rewatch, he did have a couple of chances that got blocked. But I'll put Seti in meh as well, just because he didn't have a lot. There wasn't a lot to work off with. That's basically all it is. A lot of subs that come on late will probably end up in meh unless they do something really truly heinous. But these are the players that I have ranked. I didn't think anyone had a bad game. I truly did not think anyone had a bad game. You can make the argument that maybe I'm rating Hebert too high. Maybe I should pump him back because of those bad passes. But I thought the overall body of work for Hebert was fine. It just he just made that blunder that thankfully Kessler was able to correct. I think the fact that Kessler corrected Hebert's blunder is more of a testament to Kessler rather than an indictment on Hebert personally. But you can let me know if I'm, being too kind on that one. I'm sure some of you are probably going to think, "Oh, Klaus had a bad game." It wasn't bad. It was just indifferent, and that's literally the definition of meh. So. But again, you can let me know if I'm wrong in the comments below. I do take your comments and your criticisms into account. Like, for instance, with the layout of this player rankings, because I had some complaints in the MLS video that the icons were a little bit too small. So I'm working on it. I am working on it. But yeah, that kind of covers everything. I think in our Discord, popular choices for man of the match was Totland and Kessler. I think honestly, I thought this last night, and I still am going to say it today, even after the rewatch. I'm giving man of the match to Henry Kessler. He was so instrumental in basically playing sweeper duty, and he was one of the reasons why Berkey didn't have a lot to do, because I thought he was very on it. He was well positioned, and he was we're talking about box to box midfielders. How about sideline to sideline defenders? I mean, that was Kessler last night. He really balled out last night. I was very impressed by him. Finally, Olaf. As far as grading him, I was very happy with what I saw from our defensive structure last night. It's very responsible. I keep using that word, but it felt like we were very responsible. We held Colorado to very little, opportunities on offense. I never was really too threatened by them, and they still had Mihalovic out there for 90 minutes. They still had Cabral out there, for big minutes, and they didn't do much, and it was because we didn't give them a lot to work with. It doesn't surprise me that Olaf, being a former center back, wants to build out from the defense first and work on the offense later. But the only knock on Olaf is that I still wonder how Klaus is going to be involved in games like this where everything is going to Betcher. So what is there for Klaus to do? Do we even need a second striker at that point? Because I wonder if Seti's ready to go. If instead of a 3-4-1-2, we do a 3-4-2-1 with Seti and Hartl playing behind Betcher. I wonder if that's the better look, or maybe Klaus, starts instead of Betcher. I personally don't think Betcher deserves to be benched at this point. I was that happy with his game Saturday night. But Olaf, I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing so far. I'm going to put him in good, though, because, again, I want to see the offense work a little bit better. I also question why he didn't take out Hebert later on and put Timo Baumgartel in, because I thought Hebert was gassed and it kind of led to those mistakes. I was disappointed that we didn't see Seti or Ostrak, but he did kind of explain afterwards that, I mean, it's cold weather. They're coming back from injury. The cold isn't the best, environment for players coming back from injury to play in. So I can kind of understand those two not going out. So I'm not going to grade that very highly, or very, weighted anyway. But what do you think of the player rankings? Do you feel that I was being too kind to the players? Do you feel that I was being too mean to Joao Klaus? Do you think Hebert should be meh instead of good? I think that's one that's going to be a little bit divisive. Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe for more St. Louis City SC content. I hope you enjoyed these player rankings, and they're going to be a regular feature of this channel going forward. Want to shout out the Zombie Ultras, of course. Now, I believe 10 strong at this point with the signing of Angus McWhorter, upgrading from the supporters section. Thank you so much, Angus, for upgrading your subscription. And, of course, everyone that is in the supporter section, in the 99-cent supporter section, thank you. You guys are the originals. You're the OGs. And I will always thank you for your contributions to this channel. This is your Soccer Zombie, Tom Franklin here. And a quick programming note, I will not have an away day watch along this coming Saturday as St. Louis goes to San Diego FC. That's because I'm physically going to be in San Diego for that match. I'll be with the St. Louis supporters. It's going to be a fun weekend. I look forward to doing the vlog from that one. But if you want to see my plans for this season and away days, video right up here where I lay all that out nice and neat for you.